gentlemen, welcome back to Marv in the Morning. Good morning, Bravehearts. Good morning, Garfield. It's Batman's episode. Yo, above all things, anytime I get to talk about something that I care about or that I love on this show, which, I love podcasting, but there are things that just have had me in their thralls since I was a wee little lad. So, yeah, today we're designing a podcast for the Batman. The Batman. And it's episode 54, Marv in the Morning, MITM 54, Studio 54. Welcome back. The usual. Subscribe, thumbs up, notification bell. Tell me what you like. Go to the comments and be like, Marv, I don't like this. I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I think you should do that. That. So, not a lot of business to handle today, but a little bit. And more concerning the future above anything else. The future of the business, future of Bravery, future of Marv in the Morning. Our future, our collective future, as you may see it. This is the future of the dreamers over here in Bravery Studios. Because, before we design, we go into the thralls of designing a podcast for Batman, which is going to be Mondo fun. This was easy to think about, too. Before we get into any of that, I wanted to ask everybody that watches, everybody that's a member of the Bravery Studios family, everybody that supports and is part of what I do all the time. What's next? What's next for Bravery in 2023? 2023. I'm more than having a business. I'm more about having a community, building a community, developing relationships between everyone that records here, that creates art here. I love bringing people together. I often tell people, listen, I'm not a businessman. I'm a relationships man. I try to Tetris people together that I think could create beautiful things together. And for the most part, my business is more tethered to people who are willing to collaborate and grow together than just come in, record, and bounce. Like we could possibly do that too, but it would never excite me as much as seeing two creatives come together and create something beautiful from it. Having a community, I got into this in the art scene from going to the Art Factory in Patterson, which is just a giant warehouse where every room is a different creative, and then they were just a community. You go door to door, and everybody's in there just creating beautiful things. You have musicians, you have painters, you have everything. Pretty much everything. Pottery people, people who build sculptures. And I wanted to be part of that so bad this is like me right out of high school discovering this place. And to recreate it on my own, because I couldn't manage to make it in there before, I kind of said, I'm going to build my own community. That was the dream. That was the original dream, right? Before I even knew what I wanted to do as a businessman. Because before I even had a business, I wanted to be part of the Art Factory community. I wanted to be in there and just be around so many creative and talented people. So fortunately, with a podcast studio, with people recording here on a weekly basis, I've kind of developed that on my own outside of having to go somewhere else for it, which is a beautiful thing too, right? But yeah, I think for the most part, for Bravery in 2023, I want to do way more community building activities, more events, more gatherings, more fun stuff. Like I was thinking of having, mailboxes for all the podcasters where, one podcaster could leave something in the Illest Girls Next Door mailbox saying, hey, I saw the last episode, keep it up, appreciate you, and hope to collaborate with you someday. Like little square notes with a pen, in a drawer on one of the walls, and then you pull it out and you drop it in the Illest Girls Next Door mailbox, or for Goodfellas, or for anybody, for Jason Enrique, for Mina, for everybody. Imagine that would be really awesome if I can pull that off, which I'm sure I can. It usually comes down to a time thing on my end, but would absolutely love that. just a lot more community building exercises is what I want to achieve this year. The beauty of it is that this time of the year, beginning of the year, I get to plan out my birthday. So usually it's a way that I can force people to congregate around me. Because who doesn't want to celebrate somebody's birthday, especially somebody that they cherish? So I think this year my goals would probably be to have a live podcast show, which I already have in mind, probably about 4 podcasters that I think can host like a day's worth of podcasting. So I think I have that already lock, stock, and barrel. And then kind of just have like a mixer, like maybe the following week after. So we could have like 2 kind of semi-birthday styled events. So yeah, I want to see if I can achieve that. I also, just among even my like close friends, my very, very cherished the Wolfpack and everyone else, I've always wanted to do a Big Lebowski kind of party. So let's see if I can convince people to robe up for a Big Lebowski party. I think that would be pretty cool. We all drink White Russians and whatnot. So let's see. I would have to convert a lot of people into being Big Lebowski fans. So let's see if we can pull that off. Yo, we got DJ Didi in the house. What up, Derek? He says, Batman is forever. Yeah, man, we're going to build this Batman podcast. And it was easy to think about the concepts of what Batman would be doing on a podcast. So I found this funny picture of Adam West talking into a microphone by a whole bunch of like audio machines. So I was like, yeah, that would be cool to have on the screen back there. But yeah, like definitely 2023, I definitely want to get done more community building activities. I want to bring people to the studio that aren't even podcasting here. I want to get everybody in here just congregating and make this just like a hub for arts and culture. That's ultimately it. Listen, I've never got into this thinking I'm going to be the Bill Gates of podcasting or something like that. You know what I mean? Or the Jeff Bezos. No, I want to be more along the lines of someone who just, is good at bringing people together. I think above all else. Like, I think that was the beautiful thing of what we had when we started. Derek can vouch on the island, with everybody watching everyone's podcast. Everyone on that island knew each other and we got along pretty well for the most part. So yeah, I think that is where I'm the happiest, when I just have people around me gathered in unison, kind of just happy among me. So that's the goal for 2023. More community building exercises. Marv's birthday is next month. It's on the 15th, February 15th to be exact. So I'm going to be planning a lot of events around my birthday. So like I said, maybe most likely a live pod, then maybe just a mixer, then maybe amongst my personal close friends that I grew up with, maybe something Big Lebowski themed. We'll see what happens. Yo, creative symmetry, bingo. The symmetry, the synergy, all the sim words that mean coming together, right? What's up, Scarlett? How you doing too? But yeah, listen, today, guys, like I've been saying, we're building a podcast for Batman. I threw out there that I want to design podcasts for famous figures. Who's more famous than the Batman, right? And Batman podcasting makes a lot of sense if you think about it. He'd have a lot to talk about, this guy right here. So let's get into it. Let's go into the meat and potatoes. Let's go right into the meat and potatoes and talk about Batman's podcast. Listen, one thing that we need to get immediately off the table is him saying that he's the Batman on his podcast. Now, listen, Batman is the definition of reclusive, kind of not ever revealing true intentions or true identity. I don't think Batman would have a podcast where he says, hey, this is Batman, welcome to my podcast. I don't think Batman would do that. I think it would be thought of or maybe implied. Maybe some conspiracy theorists will figure it out. Like The Question will figure it out or something, right? Another one of my favorite superheroes is The Question. But, dude, I don't think Batman would go into a podcast and say, I'm the Batman, or go into a recording studio and say, hey, welcome to the Batman's podcast. I don't think so. So what I think he would do is kind of say he's anonymous. Like, this is an anonymous host, or maybe use one of his aliases, because Batman does go on the cover sometimes and dress up as a homeless guy. I think he used to call himself like Patches Malone or something like that, or something like that. I forgot what it was. But he has had time where he just like dresses up like a homeless guy and walks the streets to get information and whatnot. So I want to say this podcast would probably be from someone like Patches Malone, and he would never reveal that he is Batman nor Bruce Wayne. That is 100% off the table. Another thing that's completely off of the table is sponsorships. Like, Batman don't need money. Listen, Batman does not need passive income from Batman does not need passive income from a podcast. All right. Could he do it as Bruce Wayne? I can't picture Bruce Wayne being a billionaire and doing a podcast. Only because I don't know any billionaires that do a podcast. So I don't think he would do it as Bruce Wayne. And also, once we get into the further points of this, I can't picture why Bruce Wayne would be knowing about some of the things that Batman would talk about on this podcast. Yo, Batman about to be interviewing the inmates of Arkham Asylum for his pod. No, dude, I don't think Batman would interview people at all. No, I don't think so. This is the Batman, all right? This is not Superman. Superman would try to create a therapy podcast where he'd kind of try to rehabilitate his former adversaries. No. This is the Batman, all right? This is the Batman, okay? So Batman is not saying a secret identity, nor he is not Batman nor Bruce Wayne on this show. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't need sponsorships, so he can say anything he wants anywhere, and it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter. And I think his genre would obviously be true crime. He would be a true crime, sort of like a narrative podcast. He would take situations that he himself had been in, replace the characters, replace the villains, replace himself with just random names or something, close to it. And he would just kind of recant stories like of like investigations and fights and all this other stuff he's been in. Like, he could tell a true crime podcast from the first person perspective. And that's something that we probably have never had before. I don't know if we have any true crime podcasts where the people out there are actually helping to solve the mystery or the crime. So Batman has an advantage at that point where it's going to be enthralling to come from firsthand experiences. So, yeah. Okay, so Derek says, imagine having to sit down with the Joker, getting frustrated and upset because Joker is running around in circles, avoiding all his questions. Yo, listen, I do have a way for him to sort of involve his rogue gallery. So let's get to that, right? But yes, I think it would be true crime would be his genre. He would be recanting situations and stories and crimes and mysteries that he himself has experienced. But he's going to be telling it from a fictional perspective, or he's going to say it as if it was fiction, but it's going to be true. So therein, he doesn't have to say I'm Batman or I'm Bruce Wayne, or he doesn't have to jeopardize his identity, his secret identity, for the sake of the podcast. Nor does he have to hold back on his storytelling because he has no sponsors. He doesn't care about the money. He doesn't do it for the money. This is more for him to vent. And you know what? This is going to be the most mysterious thing about it. Because, let me get to that. Let me not jump ahead. Okay, so what would his logo be? All right, listen, I don't think Batman would even have a logo for his podcast. I think it would just be a black square, and that's it. So the podcast would be like Gotham's Nightfall. So let's just say the podcast is somewhere related to Gotham. It has Gotham in the title because Batman represents his city like he's the New York Yankees. Batman is the New York Yankees of Gotham City, right? He reps it hard. He loves Gotham. So, Gotham City Stories or something like that is going to be the name of the podcast. No logo. It's just going to be a black square. Kind of like how Kanye West's Donda album was. We've seen how Joker would end a talk show, R.I.P. yeah, R.I.P. Robert De Niro, yeah. You know, this probably would have been a lot crazier if we had done the Joker instead of Batman. Because the Joker, Batman would never do a podcast if we're being honest with ourselves, but the Joker would definitely do a podcast. Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't done one already in one of the shows because that seems right up Joker's alley. But anyway, getting back to Batman. Logo, complete black square. No words, no text, no nothing. No sponsorships, no logos, nada. Completely a black square. He is like just the most mysterious podcaster out there. Patches Malone is your host. Walks you through these stories. Hey, listen, you want a Batman podcast, you're not really going to know what's ever Batman. His music, his intro music, I would say, because I've always thought of Bruce Wayne as probably like a classic rock guy. I mean, he looks like he might listen to opera too, but I think Batman is a classic rock guy. In my mind, I think so anyway. So I think Batman's intro music would be 5-1 from the Doors. Now, he would not get copyright strikes because on the low, he secretly owns the masters. Batman probably can go out there and buy the masters for any music he wants. Rights, he can buy the rights for it. So I'm pretty sure Batman could just buy, 5-1 from the Doors. And the reason I think 5-1 would be great because it's kind of like describing what he goes through on a nightly basis. He's usually one guy fighting five guys. 5-1. So I think that song fits perfectly as the intro to his podcast, and I think he plays the whole thing right before the show starts. I don't even think he plays like a snippet of it or like 30 seconds or a minute. Listen, you got a black screen and then you have the music playing in its entirety all 3 minutes before you even get to the podcast because he's so self-indulgent. As much as Batman is a secretive guy, there is a lot of vanity in what he does. So Joker would be interviewing all the Joker would definitely interview. We got to do another episode for the Joker now. We have to. It would be a lot of fun to do it for the Joker too. But yeah, Batman intro music 5-1 from the Doors. You guys can also put your thoughts in the chat too if you have ideas for his logo and intro music, his genre. So far I've come up with genre, true crime stories, fictional true crime stories that are really happened. Logo, just a black square, no text, no nothing. Intro music, 5-1 from the Doors. Played in its entirety before every episode even begins. Guest. I don't think he's ever gonna have guests on the show. I wouldn't imagine he would want other people on the show with him. He's just recanting these from his perspective. And a lot of true crime podcasts, I don't know how often they have guests on other true crime podcasts, right? But what he would have at the end of every show is a recorded audio message that he gets left behind on his Spotify. Because on Spotify, you can leave an audio message for people, for those that don't know. And a lot of these times, it would probably be one of the villains. Like, one of the villains or suspects, of crimes. Because Batman doesn't only go up against super villains. He goes up against, thieves, criminals, corporate scandals, and all that other jazz, right? So he does have audio messages, and this is where the Rose Gallery would come in, because a lot of them would call in and say, "Hey, this sounds a lot like what happened to me the other night." This is a little too close to home. What happened here? So yeah, I think that's where a lot of the audience would come in and say, wow, this story actually sounds like it could actually have happened or something like that, right? Even reporters trying to figure out, hey, what's going on here? So I think there would be a lot of controversy with this podcast. But since they don't know who Patches Malone is, they can't ever put the pieces together and figure out how this guy knows everything that happened. But there will definitely be this conspiracy nut who's trying to put together the pieces and trying to figure out that the host of this show is actually Batman, because some of the stories he's telling seem a little too similar to actual crimes that happened in Gotham. So there's this guy with pins on a wall trying to go nuts. Like, how does he know? An hour after it happened, how does he know? How does he know? So yeah, he gets call-ins at the end of every show. but he never has guests. Scarlett says, I listened to a podcast on the Joker just for the chaos and his laugh. Yo, I gotta run. Peace. All right, Derek. Have a good one, brother. Oh, yeah. Joker's podcast is probably doing the most entertaining thing ever. Joker's podcast would do better than Joe Rogan's podcast. That's without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, podcast schedule. Listen, this is going to be the most mysterious part of this above everything else because it is not going to make sense. But Batman will release an episode every night. Every night an episode is going to come out. And the mystery is, how does he pull it off? Where does he find the time? He's fighting crime. He's running a $1 billion industry. He's living a playboy lifestyle. How does he find the time to record this podcast? And also, he never burns out. He releases an episode every day, but never burns out. He doesn't go through podcast burnout or creator burnout like how most internet creators do. This man is immune. He is immune to the podcast burnout, the pod fade. So realistically, he is already 365 episodes in after a year of podcasting because he's releasing them even on holidays. Because Batman, who knows how he finds the time to do what he already does? He already is a playboy, billionaire, philanthropist, all this other jazz, right? And how does he find the time to fight crime every night and wake up in the morning and go into an office? Which I'm sure he doesn't go to the office all the time, but still, how do you keep up appearances when you're fighting crime every night? How do you make it to Robin's parent teacher conferences? How do you do it? Actually, he probably sends Alfred for that. Yeah, what am I saying? He definitely sends Alfred for that. Speaking of which, Alfred would probably be his engineer. Alfred would probably be the man behind the boards, like for sure. And it would be not out of the out of belief that he would be able to do it like better than anyone on the planet. Alfred doesn't get enough credit, but he's got like a skill set that he can do anything Batman asks of him. So shout out to Alfred. He doesn't get enough credit. But yeah, Alfred's his engineer. Sometimes Robin would beg him to come on the show, and Batman like, nah, not yet, nah. You gotta, when I'm recording, you gotta be out there in Bloodhaven, doing superhero jazz. So I got time to record. But I also would not put it past Batman to have an audio recorder built into his cowl, his helmet, or his mask, whatever you want to call it. That way, when he's just standing on top of rooftops and he's scowling, how Batman is just usually standing up there, just looking, waiting for crime to happen. And then in his headpiece, he probably has a built-in microphone where he can record his own dialogue. Scarlett read my mind. He'll be multitasking, talking, recording the podcast while sitting in his cave doing research on the computer, analyzing stuff. Bingo. That too. I'm pretty sure he would just have some type of recording device inside of his suit that just will record his voice as he, is doing other things. I mean, besides just being, a superhero, this guy is also probably above human abilities. He can multitask and do like 3 things at once. So yeah, I wouldn't, not out of the realm of possibility that he can record his podcast while just sitting in the cave or researching, doing other things. Yeah, absolutely possible. So yeah, now he releases episodes every morning, which would lead to also the conspiracy nuts figuring out how it would happen, because Bruce Wayne would be at a party and then a podcast episode releases, so they can't put together the pieces like, how is he doing this? So the conspiracy nuts are going crazy. Yo, we got Big Daddy Alucard in the chat. How you doing, guy? We're creating a podcast for Batman. So watch you end the stream in like 3 minutes. Well, probably 5 minutes to be honest with you. But where was I going with this? So yeah, we already discussed it. Batman's podcast never reveals his secret identity, never says that he's the Batman, goes under the alias of Patches Malone. No sponsors, doesn't need the money. Genre is true crime. Logo, just a black square Music, 5-1 from the Doors. Guests, never. Call-ins, audio recorded and played at the end of the episode. Never burns out, even though he releases an episode every day. He does it every day without issue at all. And finally, I have here is podcast beef. Who would you have podcast beef with? One is the Joker. We already know the Joker is going to have a podcast, and it's probably going to be the funniest, most torturous, most evil thing on the radio waves. So if the Joker starts a podcast, Apple and Spotify and YouTube might not be too happy with having him on their platform. So he would have to do it from other channels. He would have to find other platforms to release it, right? Because we're not going to allow this sociopath to discuss murders and crime and chaos and anarchy on our platform. So I'm pretty sure the Joker would find a way around it. But so Joker would have a lot of beef with Patches, because Patches would just tell stories that kind of are a little too close already to what really happened. So either Joker would be claiming that is Batman, or Joker would be claiming that this man was on the scene and maybe was someone who witnessed it. But, you know, something around those lines. So he would have pod beef with Joker's podcast, but he also would have podcast beef with another Justice League member, which I'm trying to think who would be the other member would be. I don't think Superman would have a podcast. I don't know if Superman would bother with it, to be honest with you. And if I was to have a Superman flying around my world, I kind of would be angry if Superman spent time recording a podcast, because I mean, you could be out there saving lives, bro. You could be in Tibet right now, stopping a building from falling, right? So how about you get off that voice recorder and you go fly over there? So no, I don't think Superman would have a podcast. Maybe it'd be like Green Arrow. Green Arrow is very much almost the same exact superhero as Batman, but with arrows and green. So I think he'd probably be the most vocal one. He seems like he's a talker too. So I think Green Arrow would have beef with Batman's podcast, but Green Arrow's podcast, he would actually say that he's Green Arrow, because wherever Green Arrow is in the United States, I don't think he has as much to do as Batman. Green Arrow City probably does. I think it's Star City. I don't think it has as much crime as Gotham. So he has a lot more downtime than Batman. He can actually say, hey, this is Green Arrow, and welcome to my podcast. He can be very open about it. So Green Arrow is going to have beef with Batman's podcast, you know. But he's not going to say that, hey, this is too similar to what's really happening. Instead, he's going to say that was BS. That's not how it happened. Blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. So they're going to have pod beef. Well, it's going to be one-sided, because Batman's not even going to acknowledge Green Arrow's podcast at all. So, hey, Superman is a news reporter. Why wouldn't he have a podcast? I don't know. I can't picture it. I don't know. I can't picture Superman having a podcast. And if he did, it'd probably be the most boring podcast ever. You know, he's a Boy Scout, so I don't think he'll have a podcast. I can see Damian having a little fit about not being allowed on the podcast and trying to do one on his own out of spite. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Damian, the little brat he is, would definitely try to start his own podcast and kind of almost reveal too many secrets. So Batman would be pissed at him all the time, like, yo, dude, you gotta cut this out. No more podcasts for you, bro. So that would definitely happen for sure. And ultimately, I feel like this happens in every movie. So at some point, one of Batman's romantic interests finds out about the podcast, and he has to keep it a secret. He's, you can't tell anyone. Because every movie, if you notice every Batman movie, one of his girlfriends discover his identity. Always figures it out. So at some point, one of his romantic interests are going to discover about the podcast and kind of have to hold on to it forever, even though he doesn't talk to them anymore, because Batman gets a new girlfriend every movie, or every, I don't even know how often, every new issue, comic book, whatever you want to call it, TV show. So it's like something she has to take to the grave with her, unfortunately. So, and yeah, that would be Batman's podcast. Where would it be ranking in Apple and Spotify? It would be pretty high up there. I would say this podcast would probably be in the top 10, given that it is a true crime podcast, and true crime podcasts do extremely well. It's also told from someone who has firsthand account of what happened. So it's going to be enthralling just for the fact that, hey, this guy actually went out there and seen these things happen. So, forget about it. He's going to be talking about fights with Two-Face and the Riddler, and crimes and mysteries he has to solve. Like, people are going to love it. They're going to eat the stuff up. And it's going to be told very bare bone, very, very to the point, very serious. It's going to do well. Without even sponsorships, Batman's podcast is going to be caking it. It's probably going to be in the top 10. Let's just put it there. Probably right next to Crime Junkies. So yeah, this is Batman's podcast, Gotham City Stories, hosted by Patches Malone, 5 to 1, The Doors, and that's his podcast. I think this is pretty fun, and I think this is something that I want to do often. I think maybe once a week we'll design a podcast for somebody or something like that, because it's pretty cool stuff. Doing it for Santa Claus was fun. Doing it for Batman was a lot easier because Batman has a lot to talk about that he can't really talk about regularly. So yeah, I think fun stuff all around. So thank you for everybody for watching. Thank you to everyone for watching. Marv in the Morning, episode 5-4, designing a podcast for Batman. We'll be back, Manana. I'm not sure what the topic is going to be tomorrow yet, but I'm going to guarantee you it's going to be a good one. And above all else, for anyone that came in late, my question to all the viewers and everyone that watches is, of course, what would you like to see Bravery Studios do next? What are some of the things that you want to see happening at Bravery Studios? What can we do to build a bigger community, a stronger community, a more just as fun, a more fun community? Is that how you say it? I don't even know. A fun community. So let us know. Say it in the comments. Hit me up and tell me. I want to do a lot of fun community building things here in Bravery Studios. So, throw me some ideas. Let's see what we can put together. Next Dirty Talk with Harley Quinn podcast. Harley Quinn's podcast would probably be about mental health, honestly, but kind of skewed, kind of like the skewed method of dealing with your mental health. Like, hey, jumping in a chemical pool. Yeah, Harley is a therapist, for those that don't know. So I can imagine her giving horrible advice as Harley Quinn to people who call on her show. But hey, that's another can of worms that we can talk about a whole nother episode. But for now, Bravehearts, thanks for watching. Stay brave and keep on keeping on. Peace.